Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are back on another episode of Daily Palantir, and I believe this is the last Daily Palantir episode until December 26th. Tomorrow's Friday, we're not going to have an episode. Saturday, Sunday, we don't have episodes, and then Monday is Christmas. Hope everyone has a great Christmas. If you celebrate, happy holidays with your family. Probably not going to have an episode on Christmas. Maybe we will, depending on if there's any big news I want to get out there, but probably going to not do an episode on Christmas. I will be going live on Christmas Eve. So if you have nothing to do on Christmas Eve, I'll be live on my channel for like 5 hours from 7 to 12 in the night. And we'll just talk about life, stocks, Palantir, everything. So next episode will probably be December 26th on Tuesday. Having said that, there's a lot of news to get into today on this episode. Now, this episode is going to look a little different because I'm using StreamYard to record versus OBS. My OBS is being horrible. That's why in the previous episode, some of you guys, they could only hear in one ear. There was hissing sound in the background. I don't know what's happening with it. I think I'm just going to get a new computer in general because this is starting to annoy me. So we're using a little bit of a different software today, so it might be a little different, but the audio should be good. 3 topics I want to discuss. Number 1, we got a new note from Wedbush, Dan Ives' firm, on Palantir. Some really interesting insights in there. Number 2, Accenture CEO talked about the generative AI sales Accenture as a consulting company has been able to do, why I think that's relevant for a company like Palantir. And then finally, which we'll start off with as our first main story, even though I'm saying finally, is some protests that are going on in the UK over Palantir. We got a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. All right, first thing I want to talk about are some of these protests. So this news broke this morning, and it was really interesting to kind of see it play out. So this is happening right now. I'll play a little bit of it right here. As you can see, it says no Palantir in the NHS. That is what the protesters are saying. This is a protest. Georgia Robertson reports happening now. Hundreds of NHS workers blockade the London office of U.S. spy firm Palantir, saying no place for war profiteers in our NHS. Palantir has been given a £330 million NHS contract despite its complicity in Israel's genocidal and systematic targeting of Gaza health facilities. Interesting to see this kind of happening. I have a couple thoughts on this, and then you guys can say in the comments what you have to think. Number 1, look, I have started to get to a point in my life in terms of my age at 26 years old where I have very little respect for people that are protesting and not doing. I mean, quite frankly, and it may suck to hear this, but a lot of the people that are protesting in that video, they're not really doing anything in the world because they feel that if they wave a flag or they put their voice out there, or they post on their Instagram story to boycott Starbucks because Starbucks supports Israel, that somehow they're doing such good in the world. They're putting out so many good ideas and concepts, and they're creating this revolution. It's all nonsense to me. And you can either agree with it or disagree with that. But I personally believe the form of virtue signaling that exists in our society through social media protests or activism, standing in front of a company and saying that this is, unjust, is not really getting anything done in the world. And I don't want to be one of those people ever. I want to actually do things, have the money, influence, and power in order to be able to affect the change that I want to see in the world based on my own particular objectives, not protest and hope that someone's willing to throw me a bone because they see me protesting. In regards to Palantir's stance on Israel, we've talked about them many times. You can disagree with what the Israeli government is doing. I personally don't agree with everything they're doing. You can also agree that they have a right to defend themselves. It's an incredibly complex and nuanced topic. Everyone, I think, to some extent, agrees and disagrees with what the government is doing, and there's a lot of nuance to it. However, Palantir has made it very clear why they are supporting Israel. They are supporting a democracy. They believe anti-Semitism is absolutely rampant in society to the point where you can be a president of a 400-year university like Harvard and not unequivocally condemn the calling for genocides of Jews. Like, at this point, it becomes sort of a broader question on how we think about anti-Semitism writ large in society. And Palantir has made their stance very clear, and they're unequivocal about it. They support democracy, and they support the ability for us to not call for genocides on Jewish people. On top of that, they also support the West. And so there was never a doubt in my mind where Palantir would fall on this. The people that have their own ideological belief on what's going on with the Israel-Palestine war, they're always going to equivocate anything supporting Israel, even though Karp himself has agreed that he doesn't agree with everything, has said he doesn't agree with everything the Israeli government is doing as just always bad because they're in a territorial relationship with Israel. And if that's the case, then that's the case. That's your own ideological dogmatic opinion. These are people, just to put it into context, that are protesting a company that is trying not to privatize the NHS, but to keep the NHS socialized and provide a technology that can reduce wait times and backlogs. This is a company that's actually trying to stop people from dying, and you are putting yourself at the epicenter of saying they're the most evil company in the world. So to me, it's actually just funny looking back on this stuff. And I genuinely say this. I mean, I was going through Instagram the other day, and one of my friends that posted this Instagram story that you can't eat Kit Kat or drink Starbucks because those companies have roots to Israel. While they're posting that from their iPhone that was made by child slaves in China. It's just, again, that level of paradoxical hypocrisy to me at this stage of my life, I'm getting to the point where I just can't tolerate it. I don't have to agree with everything Israel is doing. I don't have to agree with everything the United States is doing. I don't think any of us agree unequivocally with all these different moving parts. But one thing I can say is just unbelievably ignorant is that you not drinking a caramel frappuccino is going to somehow affect so much change in the world that, it's just like, it's, to me, it's, and on top of that, that is a business that employs a lot of people, and Starbucks, and they're employing a lot of people. So if you think about it from another perspective, you stopping drinking their drinks, a lot of people might not end up having jobs, and that's not good for the economy. Like, there's just so much nuance to this. And the idea that it can be reduced down to don't buy this product or service because you're supporting a genocide is absolutely idiotic to me. On top of the fact when these people have like 10 followers that are listening to this. And so the problem is they feel this resentment and they feel all this happiness when they think they've done something in the world by posting it on their Instagram story or doing the protests without actually doing anything. They've not researched Palantir. They don't know what Palantir does. They haven't understood the technology. They haven't understood what the capabilities of the technology are. They're not open to looking at what the alternatives have not been able to do for the NHS. They just want to feel good. And that is a toxic thing in our society, to just want to feel good of doing something versus actually trying to do something. In order to change the world, you need money. In order to get money, you have to do things. You have to add value. And in order to add value, you actually have to take risks. Unfortunately, a lot of these people don't want to take risks. They don't want to embrace the nature of free markets and putting an idea out in their world and having that idea get rejected and dealing with the problems of failure. They just want to be lazy and not care about trying to innovate. And as a result, blame everyone that's trying to innovate and maybe trying to fix the NHS. Well, Palantir do it. I don't know, but I think they have a good shot, and I'm willing to give them a shot. And so should you if you're willing in the UK, if you're living in the UK. But they don't want to do that. They just want to protest. They just want to complain. They just want to put on their Instagram profile that they were at the protest. They were at the rally. They stood up to the system. It's nonsense, in my opinion. This is not really going to affect Palantir. Palantir got the NHS deal. They're going to do what they have to do. Unfortunately, the branding on Palantir continually will take a hit if stuff like this happens. At some level, I think, when you do AIP for Santa Claus, which is the demo video they just put out on demonstrating AIP, and you equivocate that company to being the most evil company in the world, I mean, goodness great. I'd be like, it's, at some point I can't even blame Palantir. Like they just have this toxicity attached to them and they've been trying to get rid of it. But if you're just going to equivocate them to the worst company in the world for trying to help the NHS because they support Western democracy in Israel, then have at it. But from that perspective, I'm not going to ever want to be one of those people that do that, because I want to actually do something in the world. Okay, next big topic I want to talk about is Accenture. Accenture CEO went on CNBC and she said some really interesting stuff about the generative AI sales they've been able to generate from their consulting firm. And I thought it was a really interesting telltale for what's happening with generative AI and what potentially could happen with Palantir. So let's take a look at this.
Now is Accenture CEO Julie Sweet as the stock turns around and is now higher. Julie, welcome. Good to talk to you.
Hi, Sarah. Great to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. So tell us a little bit about what you're seeing on the demand side and what it says about the appetite for IT spending right now.
Well, there's more of the same in terms of the operating environment. So we're seeing some, pace of the spend has gone down a little bit as compared to the last couple of years, but still very strong fundamentals. So we reconfirm guidance for the year, 2 to 5%. And what's a real standout for our quarter is the momentum in Gen AI. So last year, in the entire year, we had 300 million of Gen AI sales. In a single quarter, Q1, we were at 450 million.
Okay, so she's going to keep talking, but real quick, I mean, that is a big deal. This is a consulting company that did $300 million of generative AI sales last year. This quarter, they did 450 million. That right there just shows you the compounded growth of how companies are calling for more of these generative AI services. She's going to talk about what those three are in a second. But again, Accenture is not a tech company. They're a consulting firm. So they're selling solutions, consulting, presentations, they're hooking them up with other partners that could be able to use generative AI. They're not really selling Gen AI. They have some software attached to them, but they're really providing the consulting frameworks for companies to be able to understand how to utilize generative AI. And they sold almost $500 million of generative AI sales in one quarter. I can just imagine what companies like Palantir, other tech companies that actually sell the software, would be able to do as well.
So full speed ahead, tech matters, transformation matters. The macro we're all going to navigate for a while, but the fundamentals are very clear. Tech is needed to reinvent industry.
So is the appetite for generative AI outweighing the sort of weakness that you're seeing in the macro environment? And where is that impacting? Is that in the cloud business?
Well, we're seeing strong momentum in cloud, everything from migration to modernization. So moving to the cloud, and then once you're there, using it. Data and AI, so putting in the data foundation that allows you to use AI, but then also in the platform. So really, it's all about building a secure digital core. And that's why you see our security also rising.
So 3 things that you mentioned there that I thought were really interesting. Number 1, there's the cloud providers that are going to be instrumental in the transformative nature of AI throughout the enterprise. Then you've got the actual data analytics platform that sit on top of those cloud providers to make sure that companies actually can make sense of their data, essentially. And then you've got the security of those platforms in order to make sure that the data is confidential, there's granular access controls, that data can be called upon in a meaningful way, and that companies don't have to worry about it hallucinating or being leaked, etc. All 3 of those things to me are sparking what I think is going to be this decade-long revolution when it comes to AI. The cloud providers, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they're going to win that game. They're supposed to win that game. And, they're probably going to be the big winners when it comes to taking businesses from on-prem to on the cloud. Then you've got data analytics solution providers. That's like your Palantir Foundry, right? That's the ontology of your data sitting upon your cloud to actually make sense of all that data, understand that data, put that data in the right places so it can be utilized to drive insights, business intelligence, et cetera. And then you got the securitization of the platform, which is something like an AIP as well, right? There's also the cybersecurity stuff she talked about, but the nature of AIP is how can we make sure that this is an actual platform that is controlled in a meaningful way throughout the entirety of an enterprise to make sure that everyone using it has the correct systems and controls to be able to use it. To me, why is this important? Number 1, if a consulting company like Accenture that did $16 billion in revenue is able to pull off $450 million from generative AI services, I can only imagine what a company like Palantir is going to be able to do. Now, that doesn't mean Palantir is definitely going to get that revenue because maybe Accenture has a different go-to-market strategy, different execution, et cetera. But it does show the TAM is continuing to grow when it comes to companies that need generative AI applications in order to operationalize the nature of their enterprise. Palantir is in a very specific and unique spot in time where they can capitalize on that from the government sector and from the commercial sector all across the world. So if Accenture can do $450 million in revenue, Palantir last quarter did $558 million. I think they're guiding for $604 million in Q4. I think if that TAM is growing, Palantir is going to have a bigger market to be able to go after, which is very important. On top of that, Accenture is a partner with Palantir. Accenture and Palantir have partnered for the NHS deal. Accenture is basically going to be having their consultants help implement, I believe, the federated data platform all across the NHS over the next couple of years in all the different hospitals. So one argument could be made that Accenture is, as a sales and distribution partner for Palantir, bringing clients to them. Because if you're working with Accenture and Accenture gets like a cut of matching you with Palantir to be able to sell you generative AI services, and then Palantir actually sells you the software, then there's a world in which Accenture doing well also means that Palantir is doing well. Now, I don't know how great the relationship is between Accenture and Palantir. They made the partnership back in 2022. We haven't really heard too much from that. That would actually be a great question to hear about on earnings in terms of how you're working with some of these other third parties. I know boot camps is their core main strategy, which we're about to talk about in a second. But in general, Accenture doing well means that this market opportunity is very big because Accenture is just a consulting firm. Palantir, as a tech firm that has consulting services, I think can also do very well if that market just keeps on growing further and further. All right, last thing we're going to talk about today is Dan Ives. He put out a note. Well, Wedbush, his firm, put out a note on Palantir. I'm going to read through the note. I thought the note was very, very interesting. And they said some stuff that has continued to make Wedbush bullish on Palantir. Again, they have the highest price target on the street at $25. So let's read a little bit from this. Palantir remains at the center of the AI transformation, with AIP picking up significant traction across all size organizations, with the AI ontology as the bedrock for its growth strategy. So already right there, they're saying AIP is starting to gain some more momentum. The end-to-end platform is built around the idea of the ontology, which acts as the foundation for AI and human teaming by bringing together data, logic, and action to properly collaborate with humans and AI to provide an overview to the enterprise. With various ways AI proactively helps with enterprises' problems, Palantir has developed a full model of the world backed by different connectors built in to quickly integrate data so users can get started with AI-driven workflows faster. AIP continues to generate significant demand uptake on both commercial and federal sectors as AI provides various use cases for both landscapes. Palantir continues to make strategic partnerships with various arms of global federal governments, including the Pentagon, with demand staying strong while being in the early innings of penetrating civil, healthcare, and justice. So it seems like the research Wedbush has done has led them to believe, and again, Dan Ives was one of the key analysts on the Q3 call that was able to ask a question. So I think they have access to more of this research, which is that AIP is growing and it's scaling, and the partnerships are actually allowing those boot camps to continue to grow. Commercial growth has seen higher acceleration over the past 2 years after seeing heightened success of its boot camps, where the company compressed a 2 to 3 month pilot into a few days, leading to a service of more new customers, where the bootcamp model saw more new customers in the first 3 quarters than all of 2022. So again, it took them 2 to 3 months to be able to get a client onboarded. That's now a few days with this bootcamp model. They got more customers in 3 quarters than they did in all of 2022, which proves that something has changed and is working. While focusing on becoming key architectures for enterprises to build upon, Palantir is adding new models in different workflow settings as users continue to see increased use cases for AI, while seeing performance upticks to further boost demand over the next few years, while better positioning itself at the center of this decade-long transformation. Pretty in line with what Wedbush said a while ago, which is that, look, this is a decade-long story around where AI is going. Enterprises are allocating about 8 to 10% of their IT spend budget next year into 2024. This is what Dan Ives has done research with in terms of talking to different CIOs about how much of their budget is going to be spent specifically on AI. And enterprises are looking to get more effective, more efficient, faster, utilize large language models, increase revenue, cut costs, have better operating margins. The only way you do that is if you operationalize AI throughout your entire enterprise. And to do that, you actually need a platform that can securely collaborate and make sure that everything is safe and secure. So it seems like the bootcamp strategy, which is kind of the core go-to-market, has significantly upticked the level of demand Palantir is getting and the level of conversion Palantir is getting, which is what this note talks about. Dan Ives and his research team, they have access to information, given they're in that sector and given they're closely working to research these companies. So it seems like their team doing this research, I take it a little bit more seriously than, anybody doing this research, because they actually have the ability to get some information on how the boot camps are scaling, who they've probably been to some of these boot camps, kind of seen them in action, what's going on, how it's ultimately working, and where the compression is from time to value when it comes to a client actually being introduced to a product or service and then being able to potentially adopt that in a meaningful way. So at the end of the day, it looks like it's working. We will see in the Q4 numbers if it's working. It's got to start really working for it to expand in 2024 and become a true success story. But, they started a couple months ago. It's starting to scale. It seems like customers actually like being in those boot camps and having real products and services they can use at the end of it. And then it's just a question of how well they can convert. And if they can keep doing that, then Palantir is going to be okay. All right, that's it for me. Happy holidays to everybody being here. We do have a special episode of Palantir Weekly tonight. CodeStrap will be joining. So for those that are seeing this before 11 p.m. Eastern, CodeStrap will be here on the channel, and he'll be talking all about Palantir, and we will be reviewing the entire year of what has happened in 2023, all the big conferences and events and partnerships and growth and competition going into the future. Going to be a really, really fun episode. Hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here throughout the entire year, and I'll see you guys after Christmas. Thank you, everybody. Have a great one.